Welcome to Peralta Matters. I am your host, Jay Calhoun. Today's show will be focusing on facilities improvements, Measure A, and smart classroom technology. This is Peralta Matters.
First floor.
Marketing, sound design, my business. Berkeley City College has transformed my life.
Fifth floor.
My next stop, flying to UC Berkeley.
Berkeley City College transformed my life.
Second floor.
Berkeley City College got me out in the community.
I attended the PACE program, the Program for Adult College Education.
Welcome back to Peralta Matters. I am your host, Jay Calhoun. We are now joined by Dr. Sadiq Ikharo, Vice Chancellor of General Services here at the Peralta Colleges. Dr. Ikharo, welcome to the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
All right, my pleasure.
Yes.
Let's give our general public a good overview of, one, what it means to be Vice Chancellor of General Services.
It's a high-level position within the community college systems, and it entails that you have a grasp and overview of how you help to implement programs and how you help to manage and supervise staff that provide essential services to our students, faculty and staff.
Excellent.
So it's challenging, but we are equal to the task.
Excellent, excellent.
Thank you.
There have been a myriad of projects going on, excuse me, within our colleges. Solar panels at Merritt, revitalizing the building over at the Laney Tower. Talk about a little bit the projects that the district are involved in right now.
Yeah, first I want to thank the people and the citizens of North Alameda County that encompasses the cities of Alameda, Oakland, Piedmont, Emeryville, Berkeley, and Albany, who in 2006 voted for Measure A, our bond program. And this bond program has enabled the district to be able to involve with sustainability, which entails that we do solar panels. As a matter of fact, we have about 1.2 megawatts worth of solar panels that is laid on top of the hills and also in the parking lot at Merritt College. And these solar panels essentially generate about 42% of all the energy need for Merritt College.
Excellent.
And that is equivalent to powering about 56 homes.
Wow.
Throughout the day. And also there's savings of about $220,000 and energy savings
There you go.
that will now go to the classrooms for instructions.
Excellent.
And also there's about $1.9 million energy credit from California Solar Initiative that will also be beneficial for academics. And throughout the district, we also reduce the energy use by reducing the fluorescence light from T12 to T6. So what this means is that we use less energy throughout the campuses.
Gotcha. So within the Vice Chancellor of General Services, you're dealing with the Measure A stuff. You're dealing with making facilities better for not only the faculty and the students, but also to generate some sustainability within our fiscal. Also saving money within the colleges.
That is correct.
That's a lot.
Office essentially is in charge of security. I manage the Alameda County Sheriff Office in Peralta, and also have security guards.
Right.
We essentially, with the help of staff, also do maintenance and operations. As you are aware, these buildings are over 40 years old.
Yes.
So therefore, there's a lot of maintenance need that needs to be undertaken. And we have a department that is solely in charge of maintenance, custodian services, and grants.
Yes.
And then, of course, we have the capital projects. The capital projects which involve architectural design, planning, and construction. So they have been primarily responsible for completing over 250 projects in the last 5 years.
Wow.
So again, we are grateful that we have opportunity to be able to do this.
Excellent. We're going to talk a little bit more in depth later in the show, but I want you to touch on one from a Peralta Community College side, the importance of smart room technology and why it's important that we move into that level of instruction.
Thank you. As you are aware, the students that comes to Peralta learn in a different way as some of us did 20 years ago.
Right.
So instruction is being delivered with technology.
Yes.
And the more we are able to reach the students through the use of technology for instruction, the better it is for those students to grasp the information. Plus, the educational pedagogy on how instruction is delivered has changed over the years.
Exactly.
So it used to be that in a classroom situation, you have like 35, 40 students facing an instructor, and the teacher is writing on the board, and everybody is listening and looking. But now, the classroom format is different. You have what you call capture technology, which is like video streaming, where an instructor will have to deliver a lecture and email this lecture to the students via YouTube. The student reviews the videos and then come back to the classroom the next day to deal with questions. So we do have a smart classroom project that has been completed in fall of 2011.
Excellent.
And over 120 classrooms within Berkeley City College, Merritt College, College of Alameda, and Laney College, of course, have been completed. And this classroom have equipment, computers, sound, and there's cameras in the rooms. And you are also able to lock and secure the doors with the use of identification card. So this smart classroom is enabling our instructors to deliver instruction for the 21st century.
Excellent.
And we hope to be able to expand this to every classroom in Peralta as part of phase 2 of this project.
Outstanding.
Thank you.
I want to thank Dr. Ikharo for coming on the show. Please, I appreciate all the information you've given us. I think it's important that you all know the service and the work that the Vice Chancellor and the General Services Office does for our colleges. Stay tuned for more on the facilities and improvements here at the Peralta Colleges.
I'm Congresswoman Barbara Lee. Join me in watching Peralta TV.
So tonight I ask every American to commit to at least 1 year or more of higher education or career training. This can be a community college or a 4-year school, vocational training or an apprenticeship. But whatever the training may be, every American will need to get more than a high school diploma.
Welcome back to Peralta Matters. We are now joined by Alexis Alexander, District Staff Development Officer here at the Peralta Colleges. Alexis, welcome to the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
Excellent. Let's discuss, of course, for our people who don't know, what you do.
I am partially responsible for technology training for instructors here at the Peralta Colleges.
Excellent. And when we're talking technology training, we spoke earlier with Dr. Ikharo briefly about the implementation of the smart technology into 120 classrooms thus far around the campuses. One, let's talk about the implementation of that project and how it's helping so far.
Well, it's been a huge help for faculty at the colleges. We now have access to interactive whiteboards in many classrooms, which can bring multimedia into the classroom, so faculty are able to actually access the internet and interactive type of applications right from their classroom. Makes the classroom a lot more interactive for students. We now have document cameras, so faculty are able to use those, and everybody has a projector now. We have DVD players, and so it just makes the whole classroom experience more involving and kinesthetically appealing to students.
We were talking a little off camera about the sometimes disconnect between technology and the actual learning environment.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about your experiences with that.
Well, I think we're almost at a unique phase in the history of education, because I don't think there's ever been such an opportunity for teachers to use technology in the classroom. And as you may know, there's a lot of dialogue going on right now about the end of the lecture as we know it. And so on the other hand, faculty tend to be somewhat individualistic, and it can be challenging to get all the faculty on board to use technology. And some people just don't sync with technology very well. But we also have a lot of faculty who are very, very interested in using technology and step up. And we've actually formed a group of faculty who are working with advanced functions of the interactive whiteboard, for example. And making sure, because we have to bridge the gap between like IT and teaching, you know, and make sure that once we have the technology, we have to know the ways to use it. Otherwise, it doesn't get used, and it could just sit around and not be implemented properly, or to the extent that we could do. Yeah.
What would you, or what could you add to the existing implementation that we have? If there was another component that you'd want to add on top of what's going on right now, what would that be?
Well, what we're actually are adding in this sort of DUI kind of a phase that we're in right now is what are some innovative uses of the technology. So once you've learned how to turn it on and you know how to turn it off and all that, you have to actually see what other teachers are doing all over the country and other countries to use the interactive whiteboard, for example, and what are particularly valuable websites and things that have interactives, like, for example, the sciences and math. There are so many things called learning objects which are out there, or people can, like, you know, put together a science experiment and things like that with websites. And so there are about 1 million different ways that we're going to be able to integrate this technology into our teaching repertoire.
Excellent. As a coordinator and developing with the faculty these new ways to deal with teaching, how would you say faculty have responded? I know there's different individual cases, but overall, what's the general morale of these information technology things?
Well, I'd say, like, if you were going to have like a sample, of people, there's all different responses. However, I think the most common response I see is maybe somebody comes in, they don't feel so comfortable with technology, or they think they're not, and then they get a chance to see how many resources there are out there. And I think teachers are always thinking about how can they make their materials more interesting to students. And it actually seems to me to be reanimating their teaching. So they come in maybe not so happy about it and go out, and they just start on a whole new, they realize there's a whole new world out there of things, and they actually many seem to get re-energized in their teaching.
Excellent. Within the development, what would you say would be your strategy to helping the newbie, so to speak, get acclimated to this new 21st century teaching environment?
I think getting people to actually use it. I mean, training is all well and good, but you've got to actually get up, use the thing, and so that's the kind of training we're doing now with the interactive whiteboards, for example. We want people to come in and actually, so they're not in front of a classroom where they might be on the spot. And you know how things can go wrong with technology. It's sort of a given. So I think that that's the way we're going, is just setting up small group training sessions, having teachers come in, actually use the whiteboard. And also another thing we're doing is we have a Ning, which I don't know if you know. It's just like a social network for our Peralta teachers, and teachers go on there and ask questions, answer questions, set up opportunities. Just last weekend, the District Academic Senate president set up an online teleconferencing where people talked about interactive whiteboard training. So we're actually using technology to learn about technology, I guess you could say.
That's a great way to put it. Thank you so much, Alexis, for coming on the show.
Thank you.
It's been a Tracy.
Thanks a lot.
We want to thank Alexis for coming on, and we'll be right back with more Peralta Matters.
My first instructor, he wasn't that articulate, but he used to say, you gots to read the book.
The EMT program, it's very intense. If you're not prepared to study, then don't even bother to show up. There's a lot of people in the class who want to be firefighters, myself included.
I want to be a nurse.
Some of them are going to go on to be doctors, like this guy. He's going to be a neurosurgeon.
I want to go to medical school, so this is like, you can get some great experience, some great knowledge.
And you're going to learn every single part of it.
Bleeding control, CPR, mobilization of the spinal cord. The true skill is the assessment. When they can come in and recognize a cardiac event, recognize a stroke.
You see somebody just sweating and can't breathe very well, and by asking a couple questions, you're able to figure it out, so it makes you feel really good.
I can't teach them everything in here, but if I can just get them started with thinking about assessments, that's the true skill.
Being in the EMT just really opens a lot of doors.
And after that, everything falls in place.
Turn the guitars down. It's time to sculpt the sound. The volume's too high. He is not horsing around. Turn the guitars down. It is the classic standoff. We like to play at 11. You like to turn us off. Turn the guitars down.
Welcome back to Peralta Matters. We are now joined by Atheria Smith.
Yes.
The Facilities Planning and Development Manager here at the Peralta Colleges.
Correct.
Excellent. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
Let's talk about what a facilities planning manager, development, whatever, what you do. Let's talk in theory about
the long version or the short version?
The medium.
The medium version.
What I do is I work directly with the Vice Chancellor of General Services and communicating with the State Chancellor's office as it involves our facilities here in the district. But mainly, when you think of capital projects, think of capital projects in segments.
Okay.
There's the planning part of it, there's the actual implementation of the construction, and then there's the building maintenance part of it. I do all the initial work, which getting the project off the ground, writing the RFPs, RFQs, soliciting for architects, working with the project managers, bringing them into the fold, but mainly and most importantly is working with the colleges, setting up the steering committees. So as these projects are planned and designed, we get their input so that we don't create spaces that don't work.
Right. Talk a little bit about the projects that we are now involved in, and just a little bit about, one, the importance to the colleges that we have these new developments, we have these new buildings, we have buildings that aren't 40 years old and, you know, breaking down as we speak on students. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, it's interesting because when we went into planning the master plan, when we started the master plan, we planned for 2022, all the way out. But as you see, technology is constantly changing. The ways of learning is constantly changing. So we always have to look back to see what we've done and where we're going to and what we plan, how we're going to plan to continue. So if you look at the master plan, it's also broken up into segments. There's phase 1, which we've been able to get a lot of work done and almost complete. Now we're looking at phase 2. So this is the part where we look at the master plan and make sure that it is integrated still with the educational plans of the colleges, and that those spaces that we continue to plan works for the education.
Right. We talked a little off camera about the positions and the ways you were able to view them. For instance, as a consultant now, as an employee, what would you say would be a difference that you see now from your vantage point?
You know, it's interesting because even when I was a consultant, I still felt like I was an employee because I worked as a consultant for the district for 3 years, and then I became an employee, and I've been an employee probably a little over 2 years now. So it was pretty seamless as my interaction with the district. And the district has been very good to me, where some places, you know, you feel like the consultant. And that hasn't been the case here.
Excellent, excellent. Within the offices of general services, I'm sure you guys have a myriad of things to be responsible for, in particular to the capital projects. What would you say would be the next level or next phase of capital projects that the Peralta colleges would be involved in?
As I said before, we looked at this in 3 different segments when the bond was passed initially. Right. And our first initial phase involved doing immediate health and safety matters, addressing those things, because they hadn't had major repairs to any of their buildings. So a lot of the infrastructure, as soon as you would touch some of the piping, it crumbled. So we're still not there yet, but we have to do it as we go through these projects. We looked at what the major projects were for each campus, and we're doing them one by one, and we're getting through them.
Excellent, excellent.
So now, like I said, we're now in the second phase of that.
And in the second phase, what would that somewhat entail?
Well, we have to look at, Laney is looking at doing a theater. So is, let's see, you know, I don't know them off the top of my head because, like I said, we did it and we broke it up, and I have to go back and see now what I'm starting. I'm really focused on what we're doing now, which is we're doing the Merritt Health and Science Building up at Merritt. And we're doing the C&D building over at College of Alameda. and we're doing Laney Tower, we're doing Student Center,
Right.
and we're looking at the Laney Library. So when you ask me, so what's next? Let me finish
The ones I
these
got.
first.
And what would you say would be the completion rate for those that you got out right now? How are they about close to being done? Are we?
Well, because of the size of the project, there's always 1 to maybe 1.5 or maybe 2 years of planning, of
Gotcha.
hiring an architect. Is it a design build method? Is it design bid method?
Right.
And there are so many regulations that you have to abide by
Yeah.
at the way you bid it, how long is it out to bid, and getting it out to the community to make sure that community members, local companies have an opportunity to bid on it. So it kind of,
It's a longer process.
it's a long process. So we always ask people just to bear with us.
Right on, right on. Well, I would say that you're doing a wonderful job, and I thank you for your services.
Thank you very much.
Excellent. I want to thank Atheria for coming on the show. We'll be right back with Peralta Matters. I want to thank today's guests, as well as thank the Department of General Services here at the Peralta Colleges. I also want to thank all the voters who approved the Measure A bonds that made these projects possible. For more information, please visit us at peralta.edu/Measure A. Until then, please do something that matters.
Peralta TV, programs that matter. Peralta TV.